Hey, sit with me a second. We can figure this out together.
I'm not sure there's anything
There
left
is.
to figure out.
Take my hand.
All right.
In the dim glow of a single lamp, casting long shadows across a cluttered kitchen table, she sits with her arms crossed, staring at the cooling cup of tea between them. The air is thick, not with words, but with their absence. A silence that hums like a live wire charged with everything unsaid. He shifts in his chair, opens his mouth, closes it again, the weight of her gaze pinning him like a specimen under glass. This is no ordinary quiet. It's a deliberate void, a weapon forged from the raw material of hurt, wielded with the precision of someone who knows exactly how much pressure it takes to make the other bend. Emotional withholding, that subtle art of retreat, where love becomes leverage and silence speaks louder than any shout. We've all felt it, haven't we? That moment, when the person closest to you turns inward, not in contemplation, but in calculation. The phone goes unanswered for hours, texts left on read, conversations cut short with a curt nod or a turned back. It masquerades as self-protection, a boundary drawn in the sand, but beneath it lies something older, more primal, a power play disguised as pain. In ancient courts, where emperors like Marcus Aurelius pondered the fragility of human connection amid the clamor of empire, such silences were the currency of intrigue. Her withheld glance could topple alliances. Her refused word could sow doubt in the hearts of generals. Yet here in our modern domestic battlegrounds, it plays out not on marble thrones, but in the quiet warfare of shared apartments and late-night arguments, where the stakes are intimacy itself. Picture the scene in a sun-dappled cafe in Paris, 1940s, where Albert Camus, chain-smoking and brooding over his notebook, watches a couple at the next table. The woman, elegant in her beret, stares into her espresso, her companion pleading softly, his voice a thread unraveling in the air. Camus, ever the observer of life's absurdities, might have seen in that tableau the essence of human disconnection, not mere misunderstanding, but the deliberate choice to withhold the one thing that could bridge it: emotional presence. In the depth of winter, he once wrote, I finally learned that within me there lay an invincible summer. But what if that summer is locked away, rationed out like scarce rations in a siege? What if the warmth we crave is held back not out of poverty, but as a strategy to control the chill? This is the subtle alchemy of emotional withholding. It transforms vulnerability into authority. Psychologically, it's rooted in the brain's ancient wiring, that fight-or-flight reflex where retreat feels safer than engagement. But when it lingers, when the silence stretches beyond self-preservation into punishment, it becomes a mirror of deeper imbalances. Consider the child who learns early that ignoring a sibling's pleas extracts apologies faster than words ever could. Or the lover who, after years of feeling unseen, discovers that her quiet withdrawal commands attention like a spotlight. It's power, yes, but a brittle one, built on the illusion that control can be won through absence. In relationships, we tell ourselves it's armor, but really, it's a cage we build for both parties, where the bars are forged from unspoken resentments. Flash forward to a rainy evening in contemporary Tokyo, where a salaryman named Hiroshi returns home to his wife, Akiko, after another grueling day of corporate deference. The argument from last night hangs unresolved. The promotion he chased at the cost of family dinners, her quiet plea for more than his exhaustion. He tries to bridge it with a tentative, "How was your day?" But she turns away, busying herself with dishes, her back a fortress. In that moment, the silence isn't empty. It's eloquent. It says, "You don't get my warmth until you earn it." Hiroshi feels the sting, a familiar ache that pulls him back to his own childhood, where his father's stern quiet after a poor grade taught him that love was conditional, doled out in nods of approval. Akiko too carries her own ghosts, perhaps a mother who weaponized affection, making every hug a transaction. And so the cycle perpetuates, each withholding an echo of wounds unhealed, turning intimacy into a ledger of debts and credits. Nietzsche, that fierce wanderer of the human soul, would recognize this dance all too well. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he warns of the tarantulas among us, those who, stung by their own venom, seek to poison others with resentment. Emotional withholding is the tarantula's bite, subtle, lingering, designed not to kill outright but to paralyze, to make the other writhe in the uncertainty of your regard. It's a power play because it exploits our deepest need for connection, for validation, for the simple assurance that we matter. When someone withholds emotionally, they hold the reins of your self-worth, doling out crumbs of attention like a feudal lord scattering alms. The recipient, starved for reciprocity, begins to perform, to plead, to reshape themselves in the image of what might coax forth the withheld warmth. And in that reshaping, power shifts not through force, but through the exquisite cruelty of neglect. But let's peel back the layers further, into the quiet laboratories of the mind, where psychologists like John Gottman have mapped the anatomy of disconnection. In his decades of studying couples, Gottman identified the Four Horsemen: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, stonewalling, and there, at the end of the apocalypse, sits emotional withholding like a silent rider on a pale horse. Stonewalling, he called it, that physiological shutdown where the heart races, cortisol floods, and the only escape is retreat. Yet what begins as a floodgate against overwhelm can calcify into strategy. The withholder gains the high ground, forcing the other to chase, to apologize first, to prove their worth. It's a subtle inversion of vulnerability. The one who feels hurt becomes the one who wields hurt, believing that by controlling the flow of emotion, they reclaim agency. In truth, they only deepen the chasm, turning a shared vulnerability into a solitary throne. Imagine now a sunlit garden in ancient China, where Lao Tzu, the old master, sits beneath a gnarled plum tree, watching ants march in disciplined lines. To a disciple pressing for wisdom on conflict, he might reply with the gentle paradox of the Tao: the softest thing in the world dashes against and overcomes the hardest. That which has no substance enters where there is no space. Emotional withholding is the softest weapon, formless, invisible, slipping through the cracks of trust to erode it from within. Lao Tzu would see in it the imbalance of yin and yang, where the receptive force becomes aggressive, the yielding turns domineering. In relationships, we crave the harmony of give and take, but when one partner masters the art of not giving, the flow stagnates. The withheld one becomes the riverbed, dry and cracked, while the withholder stands above, believing they've dammed the flood of their own pain. Yet rivers don't bend to dams forever. They carve new paths, or they overflow in resentment. In our own lives, this power play reveals itself in the subtlest of theaters. The friend who ghosts after a disagreement, leaving you scrolling through old messages, wondering what you did to deserve the erasure. The colleague who withholds feedback, their praise a rare coin that buys your loyalty. Even in self-relationship, we do it to ourselves, silencing our own needs after a failure, withholding compassion until we've earned it through perfection. It's intoxicating, this control, because it promises safety. If I don't give, I can't be hurt. But Nietzsche reminds us, what does not kill me makes me stronger. And what we withhold from others, we ultimately starve in ourselves. The power is illusory. It feeds on isolation, growing hungrier with each silent meal. Consider Elena, a graphic designer in bustling New York, whose relationship with her partner, Alex, has become a gallery of unspoken exhibits. It started innocently, a spat over forgotten plans. Alex retreating to his studio for space, but space became a signature. Days of minimal texts, evenings where her questions met with monosyllables. The warmth of their early days rationed like wartime fuel. Elena, once bold and expressive, now tiptoes around his silences. Her laughter dimmed, her affections tentative. She tells herself it's maturity, learning to respect his process, but deep down she knows the score. His withdrawal commands her pursuit, his eventual thaw her reward. Psychologically, this is the dance of attachment wounds. Alex, abandoned in childhood, wields silence as a shield. Elena, ever the pleaser, interprets it as rejection, doubling her efforts to fix it. The power play sustains them in a toxic equilibrium, where love is less a flame than a flicker. Controlled by the one who holds the match, Camus, gazing at the indifferent sea from his Algerian shores, would call this the absurd heart of human bonds. We crave connection in a universe that withholds meaning, so we withhold from each other to mimic its cruelty. Yet in that absurdity lies the revelation. The silent treatment isn't just punishment. It's a mirror reflecting our fear of true vulnerability. To withhold emotionally is to say, I will not risk the fullness of you until you prove safe. But safety, like trust, isn't extracted. It's extended. In the quiet aftermath of a withheld night, when the air finally cracks with tentative words, we glimpse the cost. Not just the other's pain, but our own diminishment. The withholder, perched on their throne of silence, rules a kingdom of echoes where every unsaid word hollows them further. And so we arrive at the heart of this subtle sorcery. Emotional withholding thrives in the shadows of unexamined power. It's the introvert's extroverted revenge, the wounded's way of wounding without fingerprints. In boardrooms, it's the executive who freezes out a rival, their silence a verdict more damning than dismissal. In families, it's the parent who withholds approval, sculpting children into performers on the stage of conditional love. Across cultures, from the stoic restraint of Japanese enryo to the dramatic standoffs of Mediterranean passion, it manifests as cultural virtue or relational vice. But beneath the veneer, it's always the same transaction. I give you my absence and you give me your compliance. The revelation comes not in condemnation, but in compassion, for the withholder too is trapped. Their silence a cry masked as command. To break the spell requires what the philosophers called metanoia, a turning of the mind, a deliberate pivot from power to presence. Imagine Hiroshi and Akiko, years into their Tokyo stalemate, finally shattering the quiet not with accusations, but with a shared breath. He admits the silence is his fear of failing her again. She confesses it's her armor against feeling invisible. In that mutual unveiling, the power play dissolves, replaced by the raw, messy beauty of reciprocity. Lao Tzu whispers through the moment, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." Letting go of the withhold means risking the flood of tears, of truths, of the terrifying fullness of being seen. It's not weakness. It's the courage to trade thrones for bridges. In the end, emotional withholding teaches us the profound irony of connection. The very silence we use to protect ourselves becomes the barrier we most long to breach. As Camus might muse over his final cigarette, in the face of life's absurd withholdings, the unanswered prayers, the untimely losses, we have a choice: to mirror the void with our own or to fill it with defiant warmth. The next time the quiet descends in your own life, pause amid the shadows. Ask not what it demands of the other, but what it reveals of you. Is it a fortress or a plea, a strategy or a scar? For in answering honestly, you reclaim the power not to control, but to connect, to step from the throne of silence into the open field of shared humanity, where words, however imperfect, become the light that banishes the dark. So here, at the edge of this reflection, I leave you with a quiet invitation. The next silence that visits your door, greet it not as enemy, but as emissary. Listen to what it carries, the unspoken hurts, the hidden longings, and choose. Withhold no longer as weapon, but extend as bridge. In that choice lies not just the mending of bonds, but the mending of self. For in the end, the truest power is not in what we hold back, but in what we dare to give away.